before I kick off, and a few people will join on as they do, I'd love to hear in the chat if you're using any sort of project management or task management tool to keep on top of your stuff that you're doing in the business. You can pop it in the chat. The chat is the little box, the third box to the right. If you're using any type of task management or project management tool, that can be ClickUp, that can be Monday, Asana, Pipedrive, anything in particular. Trello, yep, cool, excellent. How do you find Trello in terms of keeping up with your tasks? Is it good? Out of 10, do you think it's doing a fantastic job? 10, 1, I don't use Trello, I just know it's there. 5, yes, it's okay. How would you rate your use of Trello? 6. Okay, cool. Steve, how do you keep on top of all your projects that you have on? Spreadsheet, whiteboard?
I just thought I'd unmute would be easier. Because we're kind of have a retail store, I kind of just manage it through our ERP system. We have a cases thing in our ERP software, and so we use that a little bit. Yeah, so nothing really formal. There's a cases type thing, which is kind of designed like a CRM thing inside of our accounting type software, product management software. We use that a little bit, but nothing that would be as integrated as some of those other things you mentioned.
Okay. So how do you find? I mean, in your ERP, are there specific tasks? I guess from so I'll ask the question from a process perspective. Do you feel that people could come into your business and know how to use the ERP or know what their tasks are and the regularity of their task, or how to even do the tasks? Would you?
Nothing that's automated like that. We have some documentation from our ERP system. We've written processes around that just in Word documents, basically about what we do around that, because it's not all from the ERP system, but a lot of it comes, like especially product management and things like that. But nothing along the lines from marketing and all that sort of thing. We have nothing really. It's all a bit ad hoc.
Okay, and that's totally fine, because it took me and our team a while to really work out what was the best way, because it's often with any business there's 500 things that you need to do, but you say to people, this needs to be done daily, this needs to be done every fortnight or whichever, and it can get quite lost. So the purpose of this particular session is around really understanding how you can basically combine your processes, the written processes, processes that you have, with something like a task management tool, and we'll show you what we do in ClickUp, and how you can do it with all your different areas of the business, right? Where it tends to be, I'd say, either triggered by something or as a project that's not necessarily part of a client journey. So what I mean is that if you have something that's in your ERP, it's generally part of a client journey, but anything outside of it, of that, it sort of is flying around in the ether, right? Does that make sense?
So for me, that'd be things like, even cleaning our retail space, updating price labels, that type of thing. Yep.
Yeah. So where does that go now? That's a regular thing that needs to be done.
It's just on a list that, people just know they have to do it and we have a checklist when they first start to say these are part of your tasks. So nothing automated, nothing, again, all a little bit ad hoc, and yes, they sometimes get forgotten.
Yeah, okay. And so this is what we're addressing. We're addressing those sorts of things, which are like, we want to make sure people are doing it in their different areas, but how do we make sure there's a place for them to keep on track of that, right? And so just to give you a bit of background, how I came up with this system for ourselves was that I'd had a few different VAs and EAs, and I was getting quite busy in the business, and I had a new EA that was coming into the role, because my other EA was being moved into another part of the business. And I went, okay, well, what is it that I really need my EA to do on a regular basis? So daily basis, weekly, monthly, that sort of thing, right? And so I sat down and went, how can I help them really understand their role so I don't have to spend so much time training them and getting them to know that when I'm not there, my EA, my extraordinary assistant, I call her my extraordinary assistant, Jam, is here because I actually need her just in case I forget something. But for the exact reason that Jam will tell you, I probably didn't talk to her directly for about a week or two, right? Not because I was ignoring her, but because my previous EA, so the EA that she's her predecessor, who was going into a client success role, her role, Jet, so Jet was her name, Jet's role was to train Jam. And Jet's role was to walk Jam through all the processes, but help her understand her role. Right? And that's eventually where you want to get to. However, I also reminded Jet before Jam came around, they've got great names, that everything needs to be documented so that it makes things really easy for you to walk Jam through, but then really easy for when you go into your new role, Jam's not going to be knocking on your door every 5 minutes, right? And so that's when I said, okay, so before that happened, I sat down one day and I went, I have to schedule out what my team needs to do, what my EA needs to do. And this applies to every part of your business. I'm just going to talk about admin and EA tasks for just as an example today, because Jam is here. And she can sort of guide you through and take you on a bit of a walkthrough of what we do in our ClickUp, which is our task management tool. So I sat down and drew up what we now know as the task scheduler. I was like, I did a big brain dump into this spreadsheet. Number one was what I call the task shredder. How do I get clear on all the tasks that I want Jam to be able to help me to do? And this can be for any type of role, right? That is outside of my client journey. So generally, we know our client journey, and that's another episode on its own, how to document your client journey and your processes. I'm talking about things that are more sort of regular or triggered by something. So I know that Jam on a daily basis needs to check my inbox. I needed to check my inbox. I needed to book in any calendars and so on. And so I started to nut down what that was. So I'll show you what this task scheduler looks like. An example, and I'll fill this out with you along the way. So hopefully, Jam, I don't add more things to your list whilst I'm doing this. Okay, I will show you.
I can see Jan cringing, going, "Don't touch that, Cheryl. Don't touch that.
Don't break anything." Why is she
I'm locking it.
I know. So okay, so say we've got this spreadsheet here, and it's broken up. It's one of the tools that we use when we're doing process work with our clients. Say, and prior to all of this, they've already done all their client journey processes. I'm talking specifically about the things that are outside of that. So say an admin, she's got to do a daily inbox sweep. Daily, she might have to do any calendar management. Okay, and I'm just gonna keep going above and there. Jam, tell me a few daily things that you do. I'm just gonna say daily. What are they?
So we have, yep. So we have uploading client calls and recording, adding meeting recordings and meeting notes.
Recording to our CRM, right?
Yep.
To CRM,
And
we have. Yep. Just more.
Yeah, and then we have Facebook group management. That's daily.
Management. Okay. And then give me a weekly task. We'll just do an example of it. So a few daily, a week.
Weekly is consolidating new client launch.
Okay.
Another one is making an announcement for the internal weekly meeting.
All right. So that's a Monday. So is there a specific day that we do that?
Oh, yes. Sorry. So every Friday, that is consolidating new client launch. And then it's twice a week, every every Friday and Monday. I'll make an announcement for the weekly internal meeting, what we call BKC, for
weekly team meeting. All right. So do we have any monthly? Just give me one monthly.
Yes, we do. Monthly is sending welcome packet for our new client launch for the whole month. So we do it every end of the month.
So like
after consolidating.
Like end of the month, so that might be the 30th day of
Yes.
the month, right? The month, send or organize client gifts, for example, and then you just kind of keep continuing and things like that. So this really does come down to, if you start to notice, we're putting a bit of a process around each of these tasks that are triggered regularly, right? And so the more that, often we used to say that we've got to make sure that we organize the client gifts at the end of the month. Well, how do we make that even more specific? We've said it's the 30th day of that month. So we can actually trigger a reminder and a task that gets sent out to say this needs to be done. So I'm relying less on Jam's brain to remember this, and my brain and everyone else's brain. But we're looking at and going, all right, on a weekly basis, here's a trigger for every Friday. But every day that she's going in, she comes into work, she knows I have my daily tasks. I have about 5 to 10 daily tasks that I need to do. But how does she keep on top of that? The first thing we actually need to do is, so I look at this and you can see here, I've asked a question here. For every one of these tasks, is there an SOP for it? Yes or no? Yes? Link the SOP to the task. I'll show you what that means. No, if you don't have an SOP, we need to create an SOP. Right, so in this instance, we've got inbox suite. What does an inbox suite mean? It can mean one thing to Jam, it can mean another thing to Tony, it can be another thing to Cheryl. So I've got to be specific as to what that inbox, how I want my inbox to be swept and what folders. So Jam, can you share then what our SOP, I'll give you an example, the link to our SOP for inbox management, please. And so early on, I went, this is how I want my inbox to be organized. I have a Cheryl to action and a Cheryl to action and reply, Cheryl to read. So Jam, I don't actually look at my emails very often at all. I only look at it once a day. Whereas Jam's in there sorting out like a little squirrel. Is this an inbox? Is this an email that I need Cheryl to reply to? Is this an email that I can reply to on Cheryl's behalf because we have the templates for it and the processes? Or is it an email that Cheryl just needs to read? It's an FYI, she's just been copied in. So she goes in and she clears out my inbox, my main inbox, every day, 3 times a day. And she has a process for it. So Jam, if you can pop into just the public share link,
Okay.
pop it into the chat box, and I'll open it up as well.
Can you try listening, please? So
Yeah.
this is only for email email labeling and categorization.
Yeah, amazing. Okay, so
We were discussing.
this is the SOP that we created for inbox management. That is around how to email, like I mentioned, how to label and categorize. So she's got all this, like what is my inputs? This is my step. How often am I doing it? Allocate time slots at the start of the day. Log into Cheryl's email, review, label, that pretty much what I mentioned before. Right. But it's one thing for it to be a process and people go, all right, I've created processes. It's sitting in my G drive, in my SOP library that nobody ever looks at and touches. Right. This is the next part that I'll show you that really makes it integrated into how you're doing things. So what I do here, and I'll go back to this sheet where it says, is there an SOP for this? Yes, I have an SOP now. All right, if I have an SOP, I need to link the SOP to the task. What does that mean? So what that means to the task in ClickUp. In our instance, it's linking the SOP to the task in ClickUp. So I'll show you. Actually, Jam, can you do a little bit of a share screen here? So one, you need to have your SOP. Number two, you actually need to load up the task in your task management tool. So Jam, if you don't mind, I'm going to put you on the spot to do a bit of a show and tell of what your ClickUp looks like to set things up. So if you can see here on Jam's page, can we all see her ClickUp? A beautiful ClickUp. Yep. You can see on the left, I might need you to just do a little bit of a daily task. You can see Jam's daily tasks on the left where it's a gray box. And she scrolls down, she's got ad hoc tasks, she's got monthly tasks, quarterly tasks, and so on. And you can see where for each daily task, for example, if you click on Cheryl's inbox suite, but before you click onto that, if you can just scroll across, you can see that oops, let's go back.
Yep.
You can see that she's noted it as a daily task. It's assigned to her, but the due date is also a recurring. That means this task gets triggered every single day. And if she doesn't do it, it will go red tomorrow. Right, Jam?
That's true. Yep. It's an eyesore to see red due dates here, but yeah.
I want to see red. So
Mhm.
she comes in every day and she knows, right? She goes, okay, I've got to do these things. I've got to go through my Facebook ads. Who will be the chairman for BKC? This is that's a today thing. The launch. All right, I've got Friday. I've got a specific, but there's actually a recurring task that reminds her to do that. So if we go to inbox sweep, so you can imagine where Jam decides she wants to go on 6 months holiday and leave me stranded, but I said you can't go on your 6 month holiday until you train someone else. She goes, these are your tasks, but hey, you need to do your inbox sweep. And they go, how do I do an inbox sweep? Well, in the task itself, here is the link to the SOP, how to do that task. So now someone goes in and they say it reduces their overwhelm because now they know their daily tasks. Two, they not only know what they need to do, they have the process to follow to do that. So it's going to remove or reduce a lot more of that initial overwhelm and anxiety about what do I need to do today. They ask you less questions, but as the leader as well and the business owner, you go, I have a process that I know that my team is doing what they're meant to do today and every day because I'm using a task management tool of some sort to keep track of that. I always say 90% of issues are process-related issues, 10% are people-related issues. So if you can address the process aspect, it's less about the people. Because people don't, more often than not, people don't try to circumvent the process, right? If it's there, they generally try to do the right thing. It's only when they decide to ignore it, then you've got a performance issue. But I will always say it's this: if I don't have a process in place and someone is failing to do something, I can't necessarily blame them at the start if I don't have a process that's going to help them in their particular role. And this is why we do what we do this way. So that's a daily task. There's a reminder there. The date is a recurring task. So can you just click on dates and today and just that little recurring button, please? Yeah. Make this your friend, because it shows you where you can make it. Is it this week, next week, every weekday? You can set that up, and then you can set it up to be what sort of priority, and even, give, like, if you want to give your team a bit more guidance as to how long should this really take. There's a time estimate. ClickUp or any project management tool is incredibly powerful. It can be as simple as you like, but it can be as detailed as you like as well. So if you feel that you need to track the time for your team, it's got that there. You need to give them an estimate as to how long this might take. Let's just put something in there. Time estimate might only need to take 15 minutes, for example. So again, this gives you some example, or maybe it takes more.
Sorry. And also, Cheryl, the beauty of automation when it comes to my daily tasks. So from here, I could, sorry, it's here. From here, like I will know if I'm done with, or it's in progress, because I did my start of day inbox sweep. So, and if it's done, I'll just click on completed or done, and it will be taken out of this list. But when I come back tomorrow, it will be there and it will show that it's due today. So I will know that I'm fulfilling tasks, because the numbers are getting low, because okay, I did this for today, and I just click completed, and the automation do its magic. It'll be there again tomorrow when I come in. So yeah, that's really easy, and I am really being on top of my task, just to make sure that I'm not missing anything, especially the recurring task, and or actually especially the monthly and quarterly, because the daily task, it's already inside my head. I know when and how to do it, but things that are being done on a monthly or quarterly, that's this is very helpful as an EA, and it helps me a lot. So yeah, I'm speaking based on my experience. So yes, it
Yeah.
helps me a lot.
Thank you, Jam. And like I said at the very beginning, it was like, how do I help my team to really shine? Each of my team members, how do I help them shine in their roles, so that they don't get overwhelmed at how many things they need to do, and so on and so forth. So there are things that are going to be ad hoc or project related that she will add into her list as well, and then she can keep track of where things are at as well. And then again, from a performance management perspective, if and whenever I need to jump in here, I can, and I can sort of see where Jam is at with things. If there are lots of red things, then that gives her and myself anxiety. But if there's not, then I know she's on top of doing certain things. However, it also helps me see, say for example, if she's got lots of tasks and she's overwhelmed, this will also help me identify that she has just too much on. Does she have too much on her plate?
I was going to ask, how do you figure out, or do you have a process for when Jam feels like she can't get her daily or weekly stuff done? Do you have a process to then review that?
So thankfully Jam will express that she's got too much on, or she's overwhelmed with some additional things to begin with, right? And then we will sit down and identify if they're and in terms of prioritizing tasks, are you what are you prioritizing at the moment? Is there some flexibility to go, you don't have to do this one now, it's actually not due for another 2 weeks? So that process is around at the point where Jam goes, too much. Too much.
I'm thinking selfishly, Cheryl, thinking if I'm starting from scratch, I might say get all this stuff done in a day, but it's not
Yes.
physically possible.
Yeah, and that's where you might go and use the task where, if you can go back to Cheryl's inbox sweep and ask them, like, typically, like, how long is this actually taking you? So time estimate there where it says empty, you might put in there if she's looking at it 3 times a day, there might be a few things that she's doing. So let's say that's 30 minutes, for example. And so you can sort of have a look at the regular task to go, actually, is that within the day? Is that reasonable? And you ask them, right? Is it 30 minutes? No, actually, it takes an hour because of this, this, and this. Why does it take you an hour? I know that it generally takes me half an hour. Why is it taking you an hour? So the 2 words that are always, is verify and clarify. What is taking an hour? Is it the reading of the email? Is it understanding? Is it the responses that you're getting from people? Really clarify to understand, verify what's happening, and then clarify so that you can ultimately, my role is to understand what is the cause of the delay, if there's a delay. If I'm thinking it takes me 15 minutes, and does that person have the same tools as you to be able to execute that task in that time frame? All right, cool. And then verify, clarify. They, on both sides, when you're allocating a task, always make sure that they're saying, can I verify this? Can I clarify what you're saying? Is this the outcome you want to get? Cool. Yeah. And processes are going to make that a lot easier because that's going to give clarity and a sense of confidence in what they're executing as well. So in looking at that, I said, first thing to do is look at the business in general. I'm going to go back to this screen. Thank you, Jam. Any questions about Jam's ClickUp task management setup? Tony or Steve or anyone else that's here? Any questions? Awesome. And you can do this for all your different areas. You can do that for marketing, you can do that for finance. But the first part that's going to really help is to sit down and have a think about the cadence of the tasks in those particular areas. And more so in particular around tasks that are outside of a particular client journey. Right? And so it'll be things like BAS. That's a quarterly thing. So you need to put in a trigger in there to go, I need to start preparing my BAS now. Right? Put that in. Or at the end of every week, I need to do I need to review my numbers, whatever that might be. Tony, yes. Are you able to adjust scheduling for different times of the year? Can you clarify? Can you clarify what that means, Tony, please?
Sure. So just as an example, you've got, let's say, monthly tasks, but let's say it's in wintertime, you only need to do that every 6 weeks. Is that possible to schedule that sort of change in ClickUp?
As in it automatically changes, or it might need to be manually changed?
No, you might set it for the year, let's say.
Yeah.
And that will just repeat, will it?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, you just set it like in terms of the times. It might be depending on how you want to do it, whether you have one task and then it finishes at a certain time and then you set it for another date, and then there's a new reminder sequence, for example.
Yep. Okay.
I think that would probably be the best way to do it if I understand you correctly. Yeah, and you might do one task which goes from this date to this date, and that's that particular schedule. And then once that's completed, then the other task gets triggered to start from a particular date onwards.
Yep. Great.
Yeah.
Thank you.
That's all
You
right.
probably just have to redo that each year though, because the task would end. If you just made it a normal monthly task that just never ended, just had to happen every month, if you had to do one on a different schedule like that, you'd have to redo it each year.
You might have to redo that each year, or just look at how you can set it up so that it would have to look at some automations and stuff.
Maybe do it as two different tasks that went from, you know, January to August, you know, and then recurred every year, versus September to December might only recur for those months each year.
Correct.
Two different types of task, a winter task and a summer task, or something like that.
Yeah. Is this for your summer and winter holidays, Tony? I need to take a holiday in winter at this date.
Absolutely.
And you need to schedule holidays. That's a column that we need to add, Jam. We need a holiday column. Like camping every month. That's all we need in there. So if it's helpful, I'm happy to share this particular spreadsheet, and you can have a go at scheduling your tasks. We've had a few different sessions around writing SOPs, so have a look at that as well in the recordings. But importantly, schedule it out, put the SOPs, and have a place for it to sit effectively. Tony, because you have Trello, is there anything from today's session that you might do action and take away to implement into your Trello?
Yeah, so I think where I'm at is I use it in a very simple form. Whereas if I actually trust the system, it could definitely help things. So really right now I just use it as a bit of a card system more than anything. But I know with some of those automations, I could easily get somebody else to check some of those things rather than me doing everything. Yeah, absolutely. Which would be great.
And that's why, which will be really good. And happy to catch up with you, Tony, to just have a quick look at how that's set up and give you some guidance around that if you'd like. Happy to.
Oh, for sure, that'd be great.
Yeah, task management tools are one of the things that everyone knows that it would be nice to have, but you don't know how to drive it. I don't drive my ClickUp, let's just say. We've got someone that does all of that. But yeah, having it there, it's incredibly helpful. And if you can set it up the way that we've shown you here, effectively, then your team can run with it. Right. If you want to, I'll just put in my catch-up link also if you want to book in the time, Tony. 1 second.
Got it, Cheryl. I'll go ahead and paste your link. Yep.
Thank you, Jem.
Your point about holidays was an interesting one, Cheryl. So what happens if Jam has 2 weeks leave? Do you reallocate those tasks to somebody else, to yourself, or another EA?
This is a good question. So, Jam, what would we do if you go? Because this is a conversation we had earlier this week or last week. Cheryl, I'm going on holiday. You a heads up. So, Jam, what do you need to put in place?
So I need to put all my SOPs to the system hub that we're using. And what we're doing in the background is we have, because aside from all the list, like literally the step-by-step procedure, where do you need to go, where do you need to click, what do you need to have access to that, everything will be there. On top of that, we also have a video that comes along with all the SOPs. If someone who will take over my position while I'm on holiday, if there are visuals, then they can literally follow the video as well. But we have other team members who who review the SOPs that I do, and we ask them is this something that you can follow by just reading or watching the video? And they are going to provide, okay, this part is a bit confusing for someone who just read your SOPs. Maybe you can do this. So that's where we keep on improving the SOPs. We have another sets of eyes and mind to let us know which part of the actual SOPs is maybe like jargon for someone who just saw it. So yep, it's very important because if it's just me and Cheryl, we already know how we're going to do it. And looking at the SOPs, we know where to go. We need what we know what access do we need. But yeah, having a new sets of eyes and people to review it, then we'll know. So we have backups, right, Cheryl? We have people who will review them, and they will provide their feedback about it, and then from there, we will identify who can actually take place while I am on a holiday. And I think we're going to practice that next month, Cheryl, because I'll be on holiday.
Yeah, and we've had instances for whatever reason, emergencies that Jam is not there for a few days, and we just have we allocate it to someone who has capacity who will jump in and help out when she's away. So it's almost like an understudy, but with every role that we have, we've said that we have to avoid having key person risk. And thankfully we've had a few instances where for whatever reason someone's had an emergency, has been in hospital for a week, that we've had someone who's had some capacity in their role to step in and continue in that role. Even though that's not their day-to-day role, they have the processes to be able to help them. They're familiar with that role, but they don't really do it, but then they've been able to follow the process. So that really puts our processes to the test when that happens.
We've started to have a look at the same thing, Cheryl, where if somebody has a sick day and like looking at their processes and individuals' processes each day and go, so we don't have an extra person. So what are your tasks that have to be done every day?
Yes.
that somebody else has to pick up the slack on and fit into their schedule. So we've started to have that discussion as well to go, so your task list is like Jam's task list had like 10 daily things. What ones have to absolutely be done?
Yes.
There might be 5 that wouldn't matter if it missed a day necessarily, but there would be 5 that would have to be get done, like inbox sweep, for example.
Yeah. And that's really good that you're having those conversations early on, and prepping people to go, all right, when this person's away, who's going to step in and what needs to happen? Because do they need certain access? This access needs to be provided and so on.
Yep.
Is this ongoing or it's not? Not sure if that's a consideration for you guys, but that's really good that you've got that in place as well. And have you found in general that transition or that uptake pretty smooth for you, Steve?
We've probably only just recently started talking about it, where we never really had talked about, well, if I'm just thinking about my warehouse guy because he was sick last week, deliveries still arrive and they still have to be receipted into our system.
Yes.
So, well, I have to unload the truck, and so we talked about, well, how do we cover that if somebody has an emergency?
Yeah.
So we've only really just started talking about it. Again, most of our stuff's a bit ad hoc and not that well documented, not as well as yours. So we're working on those sort of things to go, well, what 5 things have to be done by the warehouse guy every day if the warehouse guy's not here, and who's going to pick up that slack? It might get shared to 3 people, but they just have to be done.
At least it's getting done, and those 3 people, without just relying on their just knowledge of the role, if it's someone new, another person new, that they need to go, this is their role, and if you follow this process, it'll be right.
We've been documenting a lot of the process, so at least we can direct them to a written process, and go, this is how you would receive the stock in and mark off and all that sort of stuff. But we haven't really had a formal way to who's going to do what and and again, having it in front of you, like with ClickUp or something like that, would be brilliant.
Yeah, actually, one of the things I'll show you another. What am I doing? Oh, okay. Departments, responsibilities, and team chart. So this might be something you're referring to, but I guess you've got, do you have something like that where you're like, I know the responsibilities of my marketing person, my sales, operations, finance, whatever departments that you have, it would be going, these are your list of things that you're responsible for.
Not documented well enough, no.
That's okay. So hopefully you can use that as a bit of inspiration there. But this is stuff that we generally will go through with our clients in terms of any of that process work that we do. So if you feel that's helpful, because then that becomes, right, I know the marketing team has, but even before that, we've already done the whole process of, for example, this is for a particular client under the sales department. These are all the processes that are under sales, for example. Actually, no, up to, so it's up to here, for example. And then that might be operations here, and that's all the processes under operations. That might be a finance one, for example. And so we've identified these 5 tasks in here that then need to go into these departments of responsibilities. Show you. So copy, and then it goes in here. And I've got to make sure that I've got a process for all of these. Oops. No, that wasn't a comment. So I've got to make sure then there's a process for all of these, and then you identify, well, these are some things where it's social media. So actually that's a social media funnel, website, email marketing. So is this part of a particular flow, or is this more an ad hoc or a regular schedule thing? And that's when you put it into your task scheduler here. So that might be, I might do a sales and marketing, and you go in here, and you go social media or email marketing. That might be copy, copy in here. It's a weekly thing. I might do that every Wednesday. Email marketing. Do I have a process for that? Yes, no. Any questions around that? So yeah, I think it would be helpful, and this is where there's a process, there's a system for systems. Once you have a system of how you create your systems and how you document and how you're organizing it, it just makes things easier for you and your team to follow. And it just allows you to scale more effortlessly or more seamlessly, right? So hopefully, I don't want to go into too much detail because that's sort of diving into another rabbit hole, but ultimately it was mainly around starting to just look at the main sorts of tasks that are outside of your normal client flow, to go, what are the regular things that we're doing that I can put into a task management tool, and so that it just takes off that mental load of remembering things. So if there's anything, what we'll do is we'll send out a copy of this particular scheduler by email. You can go away and have a play with it and see how you go. Filling that out, creating the SOP, and then sticking it into your task management tool. And if you guys need any help, guys and girls, everyone, any help around that, wanting us to have a look at where doing a bit of an audit, a systems audit, feel free to connect with me. I've got that booking link in there, in the chat as well. Hopefully we can find some times in there. Cool. Thank you. Any questions or feedback? Thanks for walking us through that. That was great. It's nice to see no red numbers. No pressure. She did get a heads up that we would be doing this, so maybe she did some updating. But all good. Hopefully that was helpful, and there's some things that you can action in your own task management or process writing, just to systemize things, make things easier for you. If you have any questions, if you need any help, please feel to reach out to me or any of my team. And we'll see you at the next Maximizer session. I believe we have Champion Maximizer next week, which is how to maximize working with your virtual team. So, thanks, Steve. Thanks, Tony. Thanks.
Thank you.
Thanks, Rafiq. See you later. Bye-bye.
Thank you, ladies. Bye-bye.